Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast, the podcast that is passing wisdom to the next generation of parents of the athletes of our future, because we're transferring that leadership through athletics to them. And so we are interviewing founder of Rose Medal Foundation and podcast, Emily Watson. In our conversation today, we talk all about the transition from being a college athlete into the real world and the great work that the Rose Medal Foundation is doing and has a vision to do, because it's so important for us to give support and love to those, college athletes that transition out of that role and from their entire life and into the leadership role into the working world. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Bridging Impact Podcast. Emily, I'm thrilled to have you on today and have our conversation on the nonprofit and podcast that you have started and how you are making an impact and bridging impact to college athletes and college athletes transferring out of their college experience. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, and I love that we're doing similar things and getting started on this new pretty much industry on helping out with the younger generation.
Absolutely. So with that being said, the first question we ask all of our guests is, what's your definition of impactful leadership?
I think that was a really good question, and it took me a while to think about it. And I really think impactful leadership, I think it depends. As a coach, I want to believe in my athlete 100%. If it's just one athlete or my team, I want to believe in my team 100%. And I want them to have the confidence to be able to lead their team as well. So that can bleed into the rest of their life and be an impactful leader to people that they go on to coach or go on to be leaders of their teams for. So I think impactful leadership means passing it along to whoever you're coaching to be able to lead in the future.
Yeah, no, 100%. Exactly. Sports are a wonderful tool to be able to pass that leadership on and, continue to pass the torch. And so with that being said, I'd love for you to share your experience as an athlete, before you even became a coach and, how that has shaped the person you are today.
Yeah. So I was a pitcher. I played softball, and I have always been the person I'm the start of every single play. So I learned that when I have confidence in the team behind me, they play better. So not only do I have to have confidence in myself, but I have to have confidence in my team behind me. So I learned pretty quickly that you kind of have to be a leader by showing example and by just showing your team that you believe in them on the field and off the field. When you are off the field, you don't have to be everyone's best friend, but believe in every single person that they will do good and that they will show up on game day ready to play and everything as a softball player. And then leading on to I was a grad assistant at Oregon. So it took me a little bit to get used to being a manager, but then once I got a hang of it, I felt like I became a good leader onto the next managers who came up, just helping them know what to do and becoming like the lead manager. So just by experience and being confident in myself and being confident in everyone else around me. And then now I'm a pitching lessons coach. So being a leader like that, just being able to coach my athletes by believing in them and knowing that they can do something. We might have to make different adjustments here and there, but anyone can do anything they set their mind to, and I fully believe that.
Absolutely. So there's a saying that talks about how leadership is a transfer of belief, and you've talked about the word belief a little bit, and you've talked about how as a pitcher you not only have to believe in yourself, right, and being able to hit your spots and pitch your game, but you also have to believe in the defense behind you so you can, make sure that you don't want to try and strike out everyone. You want to trust your defense that they'll make the plays that are necessary. And you said a keyword, show. I'm curious how as leaders we have to show our belief in others, because obviously there's the old saying, actions speak louder than words, and we can tell our team we believe in them all the time, but we have to show we believe in them.
Yeah. So obviously everyone says like baseball is 80% mental. Well, I believe that in softball and any other sport. Everything
Yeah.
is all in your head. You can be the best player ever, but you can also have like a zero batting average if you don't believe in yourself or believe in anyone. But
Right.
I believe by showing my teammates, when I was playing at Tulsa, an example would be I had an outfielder drop a really easy play, and I could have easily gotten mad at her. I could have easily lashed out. I could have easily been like, "Well, we lost because of you," like I could
Right.
have easily like shown that I didn't believe that she would pick me up or anything. But instead, I decided to wait for her when she came off the field and tell her like, "Hey, that's okay. We make mistakes. Just pick me up when you go to hit." And she ended up getting a hit. So she tells me to this day that that made a huge difference in showing her that I believe in her. And everyone makes mistakes. Even I make mistakes. I expect people to give me the same grace that I give everyone else, and vice versa.
100%. I think leaders definitely need to have that humility aspect that you're talking about, that take accountability when they make mistakes, but also are generous and gracious when we're humans, right? Like, we're especially college athletes, but I work with high school athletes and even younger athletes. They're going to make a ton of mistakes. They're going to turn the ball over, and in basketball, and in baseball they're going to walk people. Softball, they'll walk people. They'll make errors, right? Like, even in the MLB and the highest levels, they make errors, they turn the ball over, and it's natural human error. And I think it's kind of an interesting story that you share that's powerful, that talks about just a little bit, right? I bet if you were on her, and your teammates were on her and be like and consistently getting mad at her, she would have went up to the plate and probably not had the same mindset, right? And so I'd love to hear more about, kind of that mindset and aspect, and how you carry that mindset of, okay, next, either next pitch or next play or next at bat.
Yeah. So I watched a video. So I let me rewind this. So I'm the founder of Rose Medal Foundation, and we have a program called Championship Mentoring, and it's a guided mentorship program. And I did the program. I had a mentee. I was a mentor, and in one of the weeks, we had to watch a video. We have to watch a video every week, but in one of the videos, it was a short video of Michael Phelps talking about how he became so successful. And one of his points he made was, after every meet, after every race, no matter if he won or lost, which he usually won, he would put it behind him every single time, no matter what. And it's super important not to dwell on losses and not to celebrate too long on wins. So to be constantly working is really important in athletics and in life. Like you can never just stop working, always be hungry, and that confidence will show through.
Absolutely. I know that we had recently a mental performance coach come on here and talk about the no scoreboard mentality, and she was touching on the importance of, like, Nick Saban in Alabama. They really want to focus on just winning each play at a time, which is kind of what you're talking about, right? No matter, even if he won, you can use it as a reference point, right? But it is not the current you know history that you are writing right now, and we have to kind of show up and continue to be a work in progress. And so, as an athlete, like, how did you navigate some of those challenging times where maybe as a pitcher you had a few different outings where you're getting roughed up and hit around, or maybe you weren't as accurate in finding the strike zone? I'm curious how you approach that as an athlete.
Yeah, that's kind of a really big question. I have a lot of answers that I can answer to that. But really, I took every single inning, one pitch at a time. I really did. Like every
Right.
single pitch, just one at a time. I would visualize every single pitch before I would throw it, and then I would throw it, and then all I would want is for the ball to move and for me to hit my spot. And if they hit it, I hope it's a pop up or a ground ball for my defense to play. I want it
Right.
to give my best effort to give my defense the best chance that they can make a play. Um, and I would just take things one pitch at a time, one inning at a time, one game at a time. If I was pulled from a game, I would reflect on that and I would talk to my coach about what I can do to be better. That happened all the time where I would be like, okay, I really want to play. They're not putting me in. I'm going to talk to my coach, see what I can do to be better. And I think that's huge is for young athletes to understand is don't be afraid to approach your coach because they like to know that you want to be better. They like to know that you want to play. And that was super important for me to do. I was kind of nervous to do it at first, but I'm so glad I did it. Where I went up to the coach, I think it was my sophomore year, and I was like, "Hey, I really want to be like the ace." And he told me what to do, and I did exactly that. Like if he tells you what to do, you do it, or he or she, whoever the coach is. And it may not be fun, but it's you got to do what you got to do to have that championship mindset. So, for example, he told me to get in extra workouts. All right, so I went to go talk to my strength coach and see what I can do on my own time that I can be able to get better. Because I didn't come into college the ace, so just being able to have that ability to know that I can get better, making adjustments pitch by pitch. I also had a mindset of not if I make three pitches in a row with the same mistake, that's not good. You have to be able to make adjustments. And obviously, mistakes happen. So, yeah, there might be two pitches in a row where it's like the same mistake, but there better not be a third pitch in a row with the same mistake. So, making adjustments was a big thing for me. And then, especially when we played in like really high level competition, fake it till you make it. When everyone's going to be asking the pitcher or everyone on the team, how are you feeling? Are you nervous? If anyone asks you if you're nervous, no matter how you're feeling, you say no. You say you're confident. So fake it till you make it is another advice that I give my young athletes when I'm coaching. Is if anyone asks you if you're nervous, do not show that you're nervous, whether you are or not. And I really feel like that got me through some games. Yeah, I was nervous, but I never said it out loud, and that also helped my team play behind me.
Right, because as a team, you want to be in, and as a pitcher or a quarterback or a point guard, they are the leaders of the team, and they have to kind of, bear the responsibilities of, taking on the pressure. Like, no, we got this, right? Because that's you are the leader. You're kind of orchestrating the team, right? And so people will feel whether you are ready to go or if you are, kind of nervous and timid, and then your defense starts to play on their back feet a little bit, and everyone feels it. So it's kind of setting that tone, that energy. And I really like that you're talking about adjustments, because I feel like that's something, like we talked about a little bit about making mistakes before. And it's not about always like letting mistakes slide, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we have to be, as leaders, make those adjustments, right? We can make that mistake one time. Okay. But how are we going to reflect and learn through that? And I'm curious, how do you teach that in your athletes now? You talked about doing pitching lessons, and I'm sure you work through and teach that mindset of, okay, it's okay to make that mistake, but then how do you allow for space to make that adjustment?
Right. So when I was taking my own lessons as a teenager, I remember relying on my coach to tell me what was wrong. And then I would get to the game and I would be like, oh, what did he say? And then
Mm.
I would like text my coach and be like, what am I doing wrong? And he would be like, I can't just stand there and just watch you pitch every single time. And eventually, the year after, he became my travel ball coach. My pitching coach became my travel ball coach, and he still would, if I needed adjustments, he would just be like, nope, you got to figure out on your own. So, um, the way that I teach it to my kids now that I coach now is you got to be able to feel what feels right on whenever you make correct the correct movement, like when you see that you throw a good pitch, it's obviously going to flow. Like there's a state of flow, and it's going to feel right when you throw a good pitch. And you have to understand where that is, and the connecting your mind with your body. And so sometimes I might sit back and not say anything for a few pitches and see if they'll make an adjustment. And if they don't, and I'll say, "What do you think I'm going to say?" And then they say, "I don't know." And I say, "Okay, start thinking about what I'm saying and try to remember that, because I can't stand there in the mound with you. And this is lessons. You're supposed to learn. Lessons are for learning. So it's always gonna be you're always gonna have the chance to make adjustments, and you have to do them on your own. I don't think there's such thing as throwing every single pitch a strike in a game. I don't know, but um, if there is, someone please let me know. But I really feel like just being able to feel where it is that you need to make the adjustment, even if you're making the wrong adjustment, just trying instead of doing the same thing over and over and hoping, just blindly hoping that it'll do. So, one thing that I did to connect my mind with my body was pitching with my eyes closed. Then I can really know if I have the muscle memory or not. And every once in a while, I'll have my athletes do that.
No, that's a really interesting exercise because I'm not sure if you read the book, The Inner Game of Tennis. It's a similar book that talks about the feeling of a pitch versus, right? Like in sports, I don't know about you, but when I was an athlete, right, sometimes I could be too in my head and trying to calculate, like whether it was a shot or if it was a swing, like if it's here, but you want to just like let you feel that swing and get the bat through the zone. And you want to make sure you're just snapping and you're playing basketball and you're in that flow state. And I think that's a really important aspect to touch on, especially for young athletes, and especially for athletes that are hard on themselves, right? When I work with young athletes, I can tell who's thinking too much if they miss 2 or 3 shots in a row. And then once you start thinking about, okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and you're thinking, you're not feeling it. And so trying to like reframe that is a bit of a challenge as a coach, and it's a challenge as an athlete to learn, but I definitely think that's how to get into that flow state and just like kind of have that next step mindset. And so talking about the flow state, I also want to touch on, how a lot of athletes wrap their identity around their outcomes of how they do in sports. And I know that's something that's really important to you. So I'd love for you to share your journey with that.
Yeah, so I went from being like the ace for Tulsa softball, where I worked really hard, and with working really hard, that means consistency. So I was super consistent with practicing, and I was super consistent with working out. I spent every summer working out instead of doing internships. I would work out 3 times a day, and that was my work. So I became really good at pitching. I became really good at hitting my spots because I practiced. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I kind of became a little too cocky with that, and I probably should have practiced a little bit more. I don't know what it was, but I felt like I kind of lost the ability to throw a strike. But it was a different situation. I will give myself that. At Oregon, I needed to throw behind the net, and I struggled with that. And I really tied my identity with being able to throw a strike, even though it was a little bit different. I come to find out that a lot of pitchers actually have this problem where when they go behind the net, they have a problem with throwing it again. But I didn't have any problems throwing from the full length from the mound. But it really upset me that I was having a hard time doing what they brought me there to do, what I felt like they brought me there to do. I was still useful, but it's like I wanted to do more. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be a good leader, and I wanted to be able to do anything that they told me to do. And for me to not be able to throw from behind the net devastated me. And that's when I realized that I placed my worth on my sport. And I felt like I was completely worthless to anyone and everyone if I couldn't throw a strike, which saying that out loud makes no sense, right? So I took some time to reflect, and luckily, I had some really good coaches at Oregon, And shout out to Coach Schultz, because he was like, "Are you kidding me? That's totally a lie. Like, you are you shouldn't be think that you're worthless because you can't throw a strike. That's absolutely insane for you to think that." Which in your mind you're like, "No, like I really feel like I am softball because that's what I'm really good at." And then all of a sudden I feel like I'm not good at it anymore. So I worked on it, and I did eventually be able to throw strikes again from behind the net. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but it was better than nothing. So I just kept on practicing, and I was able to throw. But towards the end of my time at Oregon, it was kind of cut up with COVID and everything. But um, and I did really well when I threw full distance. So that's how I came back from it. And then I started interviewing um, former athletes. So that's how I kind of got started with Rose Medal. Was I talked to Ian Dobson. He's a former Olympic track runner, and our podcast, I have that on my podcast for Rose Medal. You can listen to it there. But I interviewed him when I was thinking about being a college coach, because I thought that since all my experience was being a coach or was playing softball, that I had to be a college coach. And after talking to him, he was like, "No, you don't have to." And he connected me to more people, and basically just talked about how people related how I felt about that, and how you think that your worth is your sport, but really you can do anything you set your mind to. If you get to such a high level in a sport, you can get to a high level in anything that you want. Anything. Even if it's you have to start somewhere with your sport, you can start from the beginning from anything. It may take a little bit to find what it is, but that's how I got started with Rose Medal, was interviewing people about like how they found their career after playing sports.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We'll dive right into rose medal right here, but I want to, make sure that we touch on an important point that you just made that I think some young coaches may be listening to, that we have to, as coaches, really make sure that we don't tie our love and our how much we care about our athletes based on how much they play, right? We have to just genuinely care about who they are as people, no matter where they, what the outcomes are at the end of every game, because I think the outcomes will come from, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Because that's how you can really continue to build that relationship and elevate their game. And I think, for you had some great coaches that were able to help, give you that perspective that you are at Oregon for more than just to throw strikes behind the net, right? You are there for many other leadership reasons, and honestly just reasons to develop your own ability to be a human and be great at softball, but also in academics, and that it's just so much more. And I'm really excited to, now dive into Rose Medal, which is, really helping athletes. And I just want to, I heard you talk about, interviewing Ian Dobson, correct? Ian, just the opportunity that you have created for yourself to now interview athletes and create for athletes. I'm curious, why, what was that big, like, why reason that you wanted to start Rose Medal?
Yeah. Before I go into the why, I wanted to talk about what you're talking about with connecting with my athletes. So, um, one reason why I think Coach Lombardi is one of the best leaders ever is she starts every practice with everyone in the whole team in a circle, and she asks how everyone's day is, and she asks how like everyone is doing. And that's super important to connect with your athletes on more than just the sport. And that's how I do with my athletes in pitching lessons, is I always ask, how was your weekend, how's your day? I always ask them something, just to make sure that they know that like I don't see them as just like an ATM. Like they are
Yeah.
people, and they have lives. They love talking about their pets or whatever else. Just connecting with the athletes. Coach Coons at Oregon, she's now at UTA. She used to ask the infield every day a question of the day, just to get everyone to open up about something about that's not softball related. And I felt like that was super important as a leader to connect with your athletes like that. So anyway, on to the why of Rose Medal. So it started out as like I kind of wanted to put out there what I'm doing for the interviews. So it started out as I wanted to like make it a blog. And then I was like, this would be really good if it became a podcast. And then I thought about it some more and I was like, what if we did more than just talk about it and we make it so there's a tangible result? There's something that we can actually do about these things, about mental health or placing your worth on your sport or anything, career development, anything, if there was a solution rather than just talking about it. So, Rose Medal, the reason why I have that as a foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit, which it is officially, I wanted to make it so that athletes have an opportunity to um, have those kind of resources. For example, we have affiliates. So these are people that have done podcasts and got with us, and they offer resources such as mental performance coaching, dietitians, and personal trainers. And one of the affiliates does both dietitian and personal trainer. She's a culinary dietitian. Her name is Colby Tebow. She's really good. Check out that podcast, anyone, if you are interested. But I also wanted to put together a scholarship. Hopefully, we can get that going soon. We just had a board meeting the other day talking about how we want to be able to give out a scholarship to a former athlete who is no longer eligible, and they need that funding to go back to school to do what they want. So,
Hmm.
for example, a really high level athlete had to choose between three easy majors at their school to be able to play their sport really well, and they don't want a career in that degree. And they need to go back to school. It could be undergrad, it could be trade school, it could be a certification, it could be law school, it could be med school, it could be grad school, it could be anything. But if they can't afford it, they might not even consider going. But what if they had the funding? Or maybe another athlete who went through a different level. Same thing. They went through I know another example. Someone went to JUCO and they got their degree in that, whatever it was, and then they transferred to a 4 year. And in order to be eligible, you have to have a certain amount of credits towards your degree in order to be able to play. And turns out there's only one major that you can do because that's how many credits transferred. Well, they're stuck with that major. And then they have no funding for another degree after. What if they had a scholarship? There's lots of examples. So I'm hoping to be able to put that together as a resource for athletes because I know that would make a difference um, in being able to figure out what you can do with your life after sports. And it's a huge transition after sports. So just having that there, I'm hoping would be a really impactful um, resource.
I think you bring up some important points that I feel like most people in the general public aren't aware of, that, especially for athletes, that they can only choose certain majors because they're at certain class times, because it's a certain workload. And, that really, that forces you to really only be able to go on your sport path. But at the end of the day, sports ends for everyone. It even ends up for, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, although those people end up making a ton of money, right? So the 99% of people, athletes that don't end up going professional and making money have to, have careers, whether it's coaching. But again, like you're kind of talking about, there's so much more to coaching. So I'm curious, how has your experience been developing your own skills after athletics and, wanting to become now a creator, a podcaster, an entrepreneur, a nonprofit founder? Like, how are those skills, been transferable from athletics, and how did you come to this point?
Yeah. So after being an athlete, a competitive athlete, I kind of had a slow transition out. So I played at Tulsa, and then I was a professional player for the NPF. And then I went to grad school. I was a grad assistant. And those 2 years as a grad assistant, it felt like I was like I had one foot in and one foot out, and I was still kind of trying to decide. My master's degree is nonprofit management. When I went into that degree, I'm not going to lie, I mainly chose it because of the flexibility of the schedule, which is terrible to say, but I'm not going to lie. Also, I actually really enjoyed it. So I ended up really liking the aspect of nonprofit and just thinking about what I wanted to do. And I was like, do I have to be a college coach? No. So I chose a place to live that has opportunity in softball and in business, or really anything. A city that's not too big, but not too small. So I decided to move to San Diego. And I'm really glad I did, because there's softball here and there's opportunity to connect with people. It's it's a really good place to live. Also, the weather's great. It's amazing here, and I uh, I started out just getting a minimum wage job, and then I ended up having like a real 9 to 5, and I was like, I'm not really liking this. So I decided to take the leap and do pitching lessons, which allows me to create my own schedule and in my free time work on rose metal, because why not? It's more of like a hobby that, but if I put enough work and effort into it, it can it can really turn into something big, and I really truly believe that. So um just the ability to know that I can be my own boss and work for myself, and know that I can use for my skills in softball and in lessons. It doesn't have to be being a team coach. I can do what I want. So just knowing that I have that drive and tenacity, just like I said earlier, about you can do anything to the best of your ability if you set your mind to it. And it did take me a little bit to figure out, like just trying things here and there. And I don't think that anyone should have pressures to jump into anything super quick, because think about it, when you're a kid, you try a bunch of sports and then you choose one. Well, as an adult, it should be the same way. I mean, obviously, there's like financials and like aspects like that, but it should be the same way. Like, you should give yourself grace about what you do next, and it's okay to try different things, but eventually you got to choose something. But you don't have to choose it right away. So that's kind of what I did. Is I dipped my toe in some different things, and I realized I really like being an entrepreneur, and I like having that flexibility in my schedule, and I go all in everything that I do. So that's how I got to where I'm at now.
Yeah, no, I could definitely share a similar testament. I knew coming out of college, I just knew that 9 to 5 wasn't for me. And, at least I'm in a fortunate position where, I'm coaching, I'm doing private lessons, I'm substitute teaching now. And so a similar aspect, right? Like bridging impact is my love now, just like Rose Metal is. And I would love, hear about, what you want Rose Metal's legacy to be, and where you see Rose Metal in 3 to 5 years, and the impact that you see having on current athletes, and also athletes that are now transitioning into the workforce.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm hoping to see Rose Metal turn into something that we're not the only ones doing it. I hope that more nonprofits come out with more resources for athletes to have funding to go to school, to have. I know that there are some brands out there that like bring athletes together, and they do activities and do they focus on mental performance coaching. But I'm hoping that more organizations come together and do similar things as us, with offering funding and offering the ability and the chances for young athletes who have just graduated to be able to go back and do something else. Maybe it's, going to some sort of career camp, if that exists, or maybe we can create one. I don't know. But it's just finding out, helping athletes find out what they want to do next, and knowing that they can have the funding for it, just to make it a little bit easier. But I'm hoping to see Rose Metal turn into something that people can turn to for help, and to be able to become a family like that.
Absolutely. I mean, that transition from from college to the real world is challenging for everyone, for the general Joe like myself, but even for someone who, like when we had our conversation about a month ago, you were talking about, and you shared in this podcast, is that every summer you chose, right, to work out and become better at your sport, which is like, that was your life at the time. But when, push comes to shove, a lot of times, a lot of people meet and get experience, to put on their resume and have connections and contacts from those internships. And, this opportunity Rose Medal will give, hopefully, I know you have a mentorship program that you're hoping to, just build and foster connections. And I would love, you touched on it a little bit. And that's something that I've been trying to be really intentional about, building great connections with coaches, is just the power of connecting with others and networking, quote unquote. But it really is just about serving, giving, and giving back. And I'm curious, how that has really helped influence Rose Medal and how it will influence it going forward.
Yeah, so I remember when I was in high school, I came in as a freshman, and immediately they paired me up with an upperclassman, and they called it like big sister, little sister. So just like when you go in a sorority, big sister, little sister, it's like a mentorship. And when I went into college, I didn't really get that. I mean, like the seniors were there for us, but there was no like one-on-one relationship there. And when I went to Oregon, I reached out to Ian. I reached out to a few more other former athletes, and I realized that it's really important to have that connection with someone, not only to like help you with the transition out in general, but building those connections. Because if you just ask who you're talking to, your mentor or whoever is you that you have there to talk to, if you ask them like, hey, I'm interested in this, do you know anyone that might be, most of the time they might say yes. Like just asking them, and they're so happy to give you that information to pass along, because everyone loves to give back like that. And for me to receive that information was huge, and I am so happy to give back to anyone else that's a current athlete. Like that contact information for anyone that has similar goals that they have, even if they haven't even gotten there yet, they're on a similar path, or they've experienced something that's just similar to what they're talking about. So building that connection is super impactful, and that's what Rose Medal also is about: is connecting people who have similar goals.
Connecting people with similar goals. I think, that's beautiful. And I know that we at Bridging Impact, we have a similar mission of, we want to, connect coaches and, athletes obviously together, because, there's a saying, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And having those groups that you're talking about of, athletes being together with, former athletes who have done it and have gone it there before. It's, being able, obviously the current athletes, the mentees they'll create their own path, but we need, guidance and support to, kind of make that happen. And there are a lot of, there's professors and coaches, but it's great to have and listen to former athletes who share a lot of similar experiences. So I really think that's a really impactful way of bridging impact to the next generation of college athletes. So I'm really excited that you're doing that. And, as kind of we end to, enter the last few innings here of our podcast, the second 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, as I like to say, is, how can, what is your biggest piece of advice to, athletes that are transitioning out and want to find the impact that they want to make in the world?
I would say just continue learning, continue growing. Just because you were really good in one thing doesn't mean you can't be really good at another thing. And to constantly be looking back like, oh, I was a former athlete and that's it. Like, no, you can move forward and do more. And honestly, I just realized that the other day, because um I've been listening to a podcast. It's Real AF with Andy Frisella. And it's been super motivating. I've been reading books about like how to maintain like a high vibration in life, and like just like learning how to like take every single day and win every day. and just learning how to move on forward into bigger and better things, and things will should always be getting better.
I love that. Yeah, win the day. Don't dwell on the past. Don't even even if the past has been good to you, right? Don't live in the past. Continue to be in the present moment and do your best each day to keep creating that future that you want to be a part of, and impact others along the way. So, I appreciate your time today. Where can people find and support Rose Metal, and also listen to the podcast and and read the blogs?
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so fun, and thank you. Yeah, people can find Rose Metal at rosemetalfoundation.org. And we're also on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Rose Metal Foundation. Rose Metal Foundation. Also the podcast is available on Anchor and Spotify, and it's on Apple Podcasts. It's just the Rose Metal Podcast.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today in bridging your impact to former athletes, current athletes, and to the Bridging Impact audience. So I appreciate this, and I hope our guests got a ton out of this. I know I did. And, for those that are listening, make sure to reach out to Emily. She's a great resource, especially if you have athletes that are a similar age and are transitioning out. It's all about those connections. And thank you for bridging your impact.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I love what you're doing too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast. We'd love it if you would like, subscribe, leave a comment and a review on whatever platform you're on. It's the best way to help us grow. We appreciate you for doing that. We'll shout you out on social media. I'd also love if you connected with me on social media. Let me know your thoughts, and this is why I do it. I want to share knowledge and wisdom from experienced leaders to people like yourself and myself, so we can have this dialogue and move forward, make an impact on the world. So stay tuned, stay subscribed. Cheers.